You be like, oh man, it look amazing. Oh my God, is that what? I need that. But then you be like, but it may not be a real thing, though, Willard.
Now, back to Willard and Dibs on 95.7 The Game.
Some of this is just the prism we use to watch life. Filmos, it might not be real. You're right. But it might.
And even if it's not real, it might be good enough.
Right? Might be real and spectacular. Might be fake and spectacular. I don't know. But some of that is just that prism. And I know that about me. That's what I use to watch life. It might work. This might work. Has that gotten me in trouble sometimes? Sure. But I do believe that is the dynamic that has taken place. Think about it for a second. What did we call the Brock Purdy story when we were watching it live? This is a Disney movie. This is insanity.
Mr. Irrelevant.
Mr. Irrelevant wins the Super Bowl was what we thought we were tracking toward, right? Remember how many times we said that? If he wins the Super Bowl, they're going to, like Netflix is going to call. Yeah. So it felt unbelievable in the moment, but we were watching it. See, then it stopped happening on a weekly basis because, the season ended and we've decided we can't believe it anymore because the only way we could believe something so unbelievable is to see it with our own eyes. And we're not seeing it anymore. So we have, over a 6-month period, I feel many of you have now decided that what you watched happen with your own eyes didn't happen.
Or can't continue.
Or can't happen
at
again.
the level.
Okay.
I think that also has to be in play here.
Yeah.
Hey, Brock Purdy's good, but Brock Purdy is not elite.
I don't even hear that, though.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not saying that no one's saying that. The dynamic I'm pointing at, though, right now.
I'd be surprised if Brock Purdy isn't good.
No, even
if he might not be great.
How often do you get the comment, and this is either on our YouTube channel, First NorCal Credit Union, this is on social media a lot, Brock Purdy is mid. See, that's what I have trouble with. And I know what it sounds like. I know you think I'm here telling you that Brock's great and that there's no doubt he's going to be amazing. I'm not saying that. I don't know what the future holds. I'm not sold that he's a Hall of Fame quarterback. I'm telling you that what we watched last year actually happened. It's not as small of a sample size as many of you are making it out to be. And the idea that his floor is literally a bad player, I think is silly. I think his floor is above mid. I don't know how many people who watch Brock Purdy, I think this is important. My perception changed after one very, very specific game, and it was the Raider game. And I'll tell you why. There were two things that happened in that game. One of them you all saw, which is that was the first time Brock Purdy was dealing with a double-digit deficit. And how, could he bring the team back? That was one. The other thing was that was my opportunity because I was in the building to basically watch Brock Purdy from an all-22 standpoint. I had seats end zone corner in Las Vegas. And I could watch Brock Purdy in a way that you don't see on TV, which is that you can watch him throw people open. You can watch him process that information while you've got the whole field in front of your eyes. Many of you have seen this. Many of you have season tickets, and you went, and you watched. But it is a very different way to watch football when you're in the building and you can see routes develop and you can see protections move and you watch the way someone moves around a field and picks where he puts the ball. There were a number of times where I watched Brock release the ball, and I'm like, where's he throwing it? And then you're like, oh, nice throw, dude. That happened repeatedly. It changed my perception on Brock Purdy.
Yeah, that I definitely can see that as somebody that did cover, I think I think all of them.
Yeah,
at
did
that
you go to
point.
all of them?
I was in
Did you go to all of
Vegas
them?
from that point on. I think I was in Vegas and
Oh,
Seattle.
that's right. We saw each other at the airport.
Yes,
I remember
that-
now.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, we did. When in our own monsoon,
Yes.
on the New Year's Eve monsoon.
Yes.
But yeah, I'm trying to. It's irrelevant. But
Remember that was during that whole Southwest thing that was going on?
it was.
I had no confidence that we were going to get there.
It was literally the first day, I think, that they were back, or the second
It was
day.
6 days after I had been
'cause
stranded on
that's
Christmas.
That's right.
It was 6 days after I'd been stranded on Christmas.
That's right.
And so both of us looked at each other. We're like, we'll see you in Vegas, or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll see you at baggage claim.
Or maybe we're going to rent a car.
Right. That's right, because you
My
had to be
girlfriend
there.
was there also. Yes.
You had to be there. All right, anyway, go ahead. You were saying.
But no, you can see exactly what you're talking about if you watch Purdy.
Yes.
With the overhead view, like he does things that make you go, okay, that's what an elite quarterback would do.
He sees it.
Now again, we don't know, is he going to keep doing that over and over and over?
Right.
But he has done it to a point where it's like, okay, like Mooch said, if this keeps up.
All right, here it is. We asked Mooch, small sample size. How small? How convinced would you be?
Pretty darn, okay? My first comment when he went in and played well was small sample size. Not so much beginner's luck, but yeah, okay, played great. He had playmakers around him, guys that run after the catch, blah, blah, blah. And then I want to see it again. Well, we saw it again. And then it was like, well, still a small sample size, and 2 games doesn't make a Hall of Fame career. And then we saw it again. And then we saw it again. And it was like, who is this guy? He was very consistently good. And it surprised the heck out of me and you and everybody else. And I'll promise you, it surprised the 49er brass, okay? I'm just telling you. Because if they knew this was coming, they would have picked him up a lot sooner, right? So he was a pleasant surprise. And sometimes that happens. I worked with a guy named Kurt Warner. Wasn't drafted at all. He was Mr. Nothing, not Mr. Irrelevant. He was Mr. Nobody knows his name. And so sometimes they surprise you. Man, we're all rooting for Brock Purdy, and I don't know who's still skeptical about him because he played well against good teams. He played consistently. I was waiting for the shoe to drop and have him bad day and throw a couple picks in a row or something. Never happened. It was really like, I can't believe I'm watching this. It was really something else.
I'm not saying that it was a whole season worth. I'm not saying it was 2 seasons. Like, sure. It was 8 games. I just want to remind everybody, it's 8 games. It wasn't 2. It was 8.
And it was an important 8. It was in the middle of
Yes.
a playoff race. It was in the middle of a division race because at that point where Jimmy Garoppolo got hurt, the question was, can they still win the division? Because they had to go to Seattle, and Seattle was not playing well, but got it together at the end of the year
Look,
to where
it's Thursday night in Seattle.
If the Niners
Sure.
had faltered, Seattle ended up making the playoffs. Niners lose that game, maybe we're having a different conversation. So it was important playoff games
With a broken rib.
and that
with a broken rib.
and that was the one of the games that turned it for me because you didn't know how bad it was leading up to it. There were reports, this or that.
You knew he was uncomfortable.
But hearing the way players talked about it after the game, and Kyle Shanahan talked about it, and it even has been referenced in interviews that Shanahan has done since, I think the Tim Kawakami podcast most recently, the level of, it was an hour before. I thought we were playing Josh Johnson.
Yep. And definitely didn't think he was going to make it through 4 quarters, even when they did send him out there.
Exactly. And so to see him be able to guide a win the way that he did in that environment, which wasn't the Seattle necessarily of 2019, and it's certainly of a decade ago, but still, that's a big-time road game at night with another good team on the other side, and you don't have to tell Niner fans, I mean, they won there twice in, 10 years?
Right. It also came in, and it was like, I know they didn't end up scoring a whole lot of points. Was it 21 or 24?
20, yeah, I think 21.
But boom, right out the gate. Like the big Kittle throws, 2 of them, it was like they grabbed the game in the first quarter. They grabbed the game in the first quarter to the point where even when Seattle made a little bit of a run, it was too little too late, put it in the hands of the defense, and they were able to kind of, and little did we know, I bet they would have scored more if they had to, but they were probably trying to protect Brock Purdy And they had a double-digit lead, and so they ran the ball a lot in the second half and just tried to play field position, and they won the game.
Yeah, protected it. It always gets weird up there. I do think Seattle got the ball back. I want to say down 8.
There was a nervous moment.
I want to say they got the ball back down 8.
There was a nervous moment
which
in the
they
fourth
always
quarter.
do.
Yeah.
That's every game there.
Yeah.
But the Niners were able to win that. But the way that his teammates and Kyle Shanahan spoke, and I was up there covering that game as well. After the game, that was like, wow, okay. There's another level to Brock Purdy that we hadn't, 4 days after his first start at that point, which was the blowout win over Tampa Bay. And it was impressive.
Yeah.
It was impressive.
21-13. I'm looking at kind of the play-by-play as we get
I want to say Seattle got it back and the Niners stopped them, or maybe they almost got it back and the Niners converted a third down and they didn't get it back. I can't.
Yeah, Seattle scores to make it 21-13 in, let's see.
It's like 3 minutes left, maybe.
They scored. Let me just get the scoring plays. Yeah, they scored in the fourth quarter with 3.5 to go.
Yeah,
to make it an 8. Noah Fant scores a touchdown, makes it 21-13. But there were only 3 minutes to go, and the 49ers ran out the clock.
So they did. Okay.
Yeah,
so maybe
the Seattle never got the ball back.
No, they didn't get the ball back.
Niners actually went on a 3.5-minute, 8-play, 71-yard drive.
There it was.
And Seattle never got the ball back.
That was it's coming back to me now. It's like, one score game, but you better pick up a first down.
Right.
And they were able to.
If they get the ball back.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, always live on the free Odyssey app, Twitch, and YouTube. We love that audience, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Peter in Millbrae with Willard and JD. Hey, Peter, how you doing? What's up?
Not much. Thank you for taking my call.
Thanks for making it.
Absolutely. So I wanted to point out that everybody keeps saying that Brock Purdy only had 8 starts, right? Well, there's another, and back in 2018, another player had only 7 starts and made it to a playoff game, but couldn't win that playoff game. That's Lamar Jackson. Now, I'm not saying that Brock Purdy is going to be Lamar Jackson. What I'm saying is we need to put some belief in this kid. I mean, what he did was crazy. He took the offense that was averaging 23, 22 points a game with Trey and Jimmy and brought it up to 32 points a game. I think we should support this guy rather than try and say, oh, well, he's going to take a step back, or, oh, well, he's going to do this. Let's watch and see. Let's see what this kid can do and actually, support the kid rather than try and bring him down.
So, Peter, yeah, it makes total sense. And here's where I can provide you comfort. What you're asking for is not going to happen in the fan base, but it is going to happen with the team. That's exactly what you just described is how the team feels, and I think you even sell it a little bit short when you're like, he's young, let's put some faith in him. I don't know how to overstate, I don't think that I can, what the 49ers think about Brock Purdy. If you actually want to do a deep dive in terms of commentary that has gone public from either Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch, or even any on-field dignitaries, Trent Williams, Fred Warner, George Kittle types, and compile the commentary from the whole offseason, you will find one note and one note only. It's the exact same thing. And they will tell you, what do you want us to say? You want us to call him the real deal? Sure. You want us to say that he's got the it factor? Sure. Do you want us to say that, yeah, he's the guy? Sure. Do you want us to guarantee that he's the starter? Sure. And they did all of this while his elbow was hanging off of his body. They are sold. We're not. They're totally sold. So if you're on that side of the fence, you don't need to worry. It's the fan base that needs to be convinced right now, much more so than the team.
That's true. And look, there still is boxes that have to be checked for him. How's he going to deal with that bad game that he hasn't really had yet? He hasn't had a bad game. How's he going to deal with a bad game where they lose? Does he have the ability to bounce back? He hadn't lost a game yet other than the NFC Championship game, but that doesn't really count, right? So that's that it's not like it's a completely finished product.
Of course not.
But
Yeah.
if he has a bad game week 1, how does he bounce back week 2? Like, those are all things that we still. I'm not saying he can't. I mean, I'm not saying he can't do it or won't do it, but we literally haven't seen it.
Sure. Do you know what's interesting though? The whole
He's not
idea,
going to win every game his whole career.
No, of course not. But you know what's interesting? The whole is he a finished product thing? Here's another reason why I feel like the team is sold. An NFL team is aware of the fact that everything is always evolving. Everything is always being assessed. No matter how good you are, you're being assessed. Look at, and I'll give you a bunch of examples. Look at what Sean Payton is doing with Russell Wilson right now. That guy's won a Super Bowl. He's going to a Hall of Fame. He's making $250 million. And Sean Payton is like, get your butt out on the field for the first preseason game because we got work to do. Because you are always being evaluated. Let's say Brock Purdy had done this for a season and a half. Guess what? The Niners will still be evaluating, and if he goes out and has a stretch of 15 bad games, he's going to get replaced because that's how it works in the NFL. Couldn't you come up with a list right now of NFL quarterbacks who we would refer to as established, that if they go out and have a bad season, well, then there's going to be a conversation about what to do next. What if Deshaun Watson's terrible this year in Cleveland? Wouldn't we have a completely different perception about where that's going to go and what to do next?
I think that's fair.
I think Russell Wilson's another example. Jimmy Garoppolo is an established quarterback, has solidified nothing beyond this year. Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray. If Aaron Rodgers looks cooked, what conversation are we having at the end of the year? Daniel Jones has signed a big contract. Where's that going to go? Dak Prescott.
Always a conversation.
Like, any one of these dudes goes out and puts a stretch of 10 to 15 bad games together or 10 to 15 games where it's largely bad play, you're in trouble. So, I don't know. I mean, that's pro sports. That's pro sports. We didn't start this year. Like the Warriors, started the year by extending Jordan Poole. He's our next big guy. That's our next one, Jordan Poole.
Well, there was something that happened before that.
Yeah, well, 2 days. I mean, it was already in play. But you know what I mean, right? You got to do it again every year.
You do. No, there's no doubt about it. You do have to do it again every year. And look, Brock has got as good an opportunity to be everything the 49ers need him to be as anybody else that they could have in there right now. That's not Pat Mahomes, Justin Herbert, whoever you consider the elite of the elite guys to be. I know there's been some changeover because of, age and all of that.
Purdy's won 2 more playoff games than Justin Herbert, by the way.
He has.
Just thought for the people who love to play the fact game.
Now do Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah. Who's won more playoff games? This is actually a fun game. I can't even remember. Who's won more playoff games? Brock Purdy or Deshaun Watson?
Brock Purdy, I think.
I don't know.
I don't think Deshaun has more than one.
Brock Purdy or Dak Prescott?
Does Dak have 2? I think Dak has 2.
Brock Purdy or Jalen Hurts?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Both 2,
I see
right?
what you did there.
They're both 2, right?
I see what you
Aren't
did there.
they tied?
They are tied.
Brock Purdy or Kirk Cousins?
Only because they got the 1 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brock-
And Cousins is 2, right?
There's
Cousins 1.
And he beat the Saints in that one game. I don't know if he's won another one. First round out this year. So these are all. What is it? 1, Grandy? It's 1. Kirk Cousins 1. So there's all your established quarterbacks in their record. Brock Purdy's got more playoff wins than all them. Steve in Santa Rosa is next up here on Willard and JD. What's up, Steve? What are you doing?
Hey, just driving home. Just wanted to talk about Purdy and something you guys have actually been touching on the last segment is really the thing that I think the fan base needs to understand is his intangibles. His intangibles are things you can't necessarily teach. You can kind of develop, but they're really some innate things that he has with the footwork, the pocket presence, the instincts, the cognitive, the processing, all those things. And I think all those things are very repeatable. You know, the big knock on him was his size and his arm. Well, his arm's fine, provided he's healthy. We've seen that. He makes up for his size with all the intangibles. And frankly, I think as we've seen in the small sample size, Trey Lance has the size, has the arm, but he doesn't have the intangibles. He just doesn't yet. And so I think what people need to understand is Brock has some special gifts that really a lot of the elite quarterbacks have. And I think that, in my opinion, is those are very repeatable. Those are very repeatable, and I think that he's not going to have a problem with that. And so that's my take. I want to see your guys' thoughts.
Yeah, Steve, thanks, man. I think there's a lot there that makes a lot of sense. Like sometimes I try to look at it this way. When people go, dude, there's 8 games. This is a small sample. Could he do that again? What if I fired back and go, well, okay, look at it from the exact opposite side. What do you think the likelihood is that he just can't play? And like those 8 games were a complete accident. Like Jeremy Lin. Like
I'd be stunned if that was the case.
Like if I look at it this way, if I were a Vegas handicapper and I gave you 2 options, which is the favorite? Brock is really sustainably good, or Brock was a total mirage. What's the favorite? You don't get to the tweener. It has to be one or the other. It is sustainable and really good, or that was totally a fairy tale.
Yeah, see, I think I'm open-minded to think that the favorite could be fairy tale.
Really?
Yeah, because I think if you took the Bay Area out of the equation, like again, if we're setting a line and who's going to bet on what, like if we're setting a line, I think there's a lot of people that would be if the favorite was Brock Purdy sustainable, everybody would be betting the other way. Like it just sometimes I do think we have to remove ourselves for the purposes of this conversation about setting a line.
Yeah.
I think we are in the minority as far as the belief that it's steadily sustainable.
I guess
like how many fans in Dallas or New Orleans or New York or Denver are looking at Brock Purdy and you ask them the question, sustainable or a mirage? Which one do you think's more likely? I think more people would say mirage than you think. And I don't necessarily believe that, but again, I'm setting the line.
Here's why it's crazy to me. Like, and we heard this all the time when Brock Purdy was on his run last year, and we heard that you know the names. I won't even need to tell you. When I tell you these 3 names, you'll immediately know what I'm talking about. Okay, Trent Dilfer, Brad Johnson, and Joe Flacco. You know exactly what I'm saying.
Sure.
It's the quarterback who won the Super Bowl sort of in spite of himself. Go back and look at the production. Go back and look at the numbers. Go back and look at what those quarterbacks actually did. They had elite defenses. People were like, well, but so do the 49ers. Right. They were not beating people on average 33-16 or whatever it was. And if they were with Baltimore, it's because there were 2 pick sixes. Like, those quarterbacks were not putting up the numbers that Brock was putting up. They were not putting up the red zone efficiency that Brock was putting up. If last year's run had been all about the Niners grinding out 20-17 wins, then I might be a little bit more in that corner. But that's not what it was. That's not what it was. He walked in out of the 7th round with no reps and took everything that Jimmy Garoppolo had done for 5 years and improved it upon arrival. Like that day.
He did do that.
That's God, that can't just be a dream. That can't just be some like wacky thing that happened 8 times in a row.
I hear where you're coming from. I still think a lot of people nationwide would like betting on the Mirage.
Well, yeah, nationwide, nobody got any idea what the hell's going on.
Well, but again, we're setting a line.
I know.
Again, maybe that's my literal mind.
No, you're right. You're right in terms of setting a line. But I like that the national shows right now are all doing the same thing. Or here we go. It's another 49ers season with all kinds of questions at quarterback. Nope.